I'd just like to explain how we do business. The city will call a case and read a brief description of the case. The board will call the appellant to the podium and explain that they'll need to sign in and state their name and address for the record and explain what they're requesting and why. The city will then read the findings of fact, ask the appellant if they agree with those facts or have anything to add. The staff will then read their recommendations. We'll open it up to public comment. We'll then close public comment and move it to the board to deliberate on the case. I'd like to point out that we only have 3 members of the board here tonight, and that means that if our votes tonight would have to be unanimous to grant any of the waivers that you're requesting. If you need to, you can bring your case a different day if you're worried that the board would not accept any of your waivers. You have that option. Would the city call the first case, please?
Yes, sir. Zoning Board of Appeals, case number 22-25. The appellant Gregory Turner is requesting the following waiver from the board: to erect a 6-foot fence beyond the side of the house along a double frontage yard, 0 permitted, 22 feet proposed. The property is located on the west side of Fraser Avenue between Wallace Drive and Lasser Road at 21300 Fraser Avenue. Sidwell parcel 2434103040, zoned R2, single family residential. This appeal is to Chapter 45, Article 4, Section 5.37-1, Paragraph C, subsections 1 and D, more commonly known as the zoning ordinance.
Would the appellant step to the podium, state your name and address, and explain what you're asking for?
Oh, I guess you can hear me. Hi, I'm Gregory Turner. Address 21300 Fraser Avenue. That's in Southfield, 48075.
Thank you. Could you explain what you're asking for today?
Sure. I would like to, I jotted a few things down. I would like to install a 6-foot white vinyl privacy fence of approximately 130 feet in length for my backyard. The reason being, approximately 3 or 3.5 years ago, DTE or the city of Southfield cut most of my evergreen trees while I was at work and without any notice whatsoever, therefore exposing my yard by like 70 to 75% to street traffic. I totally understand trimming trees from power lines, but for whatever reason, they cut most of the arms of my trees, therefore exposing my deck and my entire yard. And this is definitely not the vision I had in mind when I retired in 2020.
Thank you. Would the city read the findings of fact?
Yes, sir. The appellant Gregory Turner is requesting the following waiver from the board: to erect a 6-foot fence beyond the side of the house along a double frontage yard, 0 permitted, 22 feet proposed. The property is located on the west side of Fraser Avenue between Wallace Drive, Lasser Road, 21300 Fraser Avenue, Sidwell parcel 2434103040, zoned R2, single family residential. This appeal is to Chapter 45, Article 4, Sections 5.37-1, Paragraph C, subsections 1 and D, more commonly known as the zoning ordinance. The properties to the north, south, east, and west are zoned R2, single-family residential, and are developed with single-family dwellings in the Hadley Country Estates sub. Field inspection of the surrounding area reveals the properties to the north, south, east, and west are mostly one-story single-family dwellings. The exteriors are made of mostly siding. Most of the homes in the area have attached garages. The surrounding corner lots are mostly conforming with no fencing that comes beyond the side setback requirements for double frontage lot. The subject property was built in 1947 and is a 1,379 square foot, 1-story, single-family residence on a crawl space with a 504 square foot attached garage. The appellant proposes to erect a 6-foot-high white vinyl privacy fence beyond the setback for a double frontage lot, 0 permitted, 22 feet proposed.
Thank you. Do you agree with those facts, or do you have anything like to add to them?
Yes, I do agree with those facts.
Thank you. Would the city read the recommendation, please?
Staff recommendation is for favorable consideration of the following waiver for a 6-foot-high vinyl privacy fence 22 feet beyond the side of the house with the following conditions. The appellant obtains the required permits to install the proposed fence. This recommendation is based on the following. The strict application of the regulation would result in practical difficulties to the owner of such a property. The proposed fence with the proposed conditions is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area and would not have an adverse or detrimental effect upon adjacent or surrounding properties. The proposed fence will not interfere with or be objectionable from the standpoint of traffic safety.
Thank you. Now I'd like to open public comment for this case. Is there anybody here that wants to speak on this case?
Can I make a statement?
Sure.
All right, thank you. I jotted a few things down there. I just wanted to say that the fence that I'm proposing would run parallel with Wallace Drive and would be located inside of my evergreens, or what's left of them. According to the land survey I obtained, the stakes and markers shows that I will be within my property line with this project. Please understand that although I am a very private person, the last thing I wanted to do was get a privacy fence. I truly had the best of both worlds with the openness and the privacy that the evergreens and the brush provided, as the pictures I submitted to the board indicates. Also, I have done some research of the area for privacy fences, and they are literally everywhere. So I specifically concentrated on corner lots. I have submitted to the board some addresses with pictures of properties on corner lots that I located just a few blocks away with very similar fencing to what I'm proposing. Also, after getting word out to neighbors in the general area, over 90% of them were very supportive. And lastly, the fence project will in no way interfere or impede the vision of drivers whatsoever. So again, and after 14 months of delays, I am requesting approval of this project so I can enjoy my retirement in peace and privacy and not in a fishbowl. Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't think I have, so I'm going to close public comments, seeing nobody else here to speak on the case, and turn it over to the board. Mr. Rogers?
Are you just running the fence, it's open-ended, basically substituting where the evergreens were?
Yes,
You're
exactly.
not turning it or going?
I'm not going to turn it or anything.
Yeah,
Just
I don't have a problem with this. I was going to say, if we were going to plant more trees, you might end up with the same situation down the road anyways, so
Yes.
It seems like a
exactly.
better idea to put a fence in, and I would agree with this variance.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it as well, and it makes sense to me, so I agree with it.
Again, no issues with people on a double frontage lot having to need a waiver for the, for one of the sides of the house. So I'm fine with this waiver as well. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Oh, sorry, I can.
Go ahead.
This is in regards to ZBA case 22-25. The appellant Gregory Turner is requesting the following waiver from the board to erect a 6-foot fence beyond the side of the house along a double frontage yard, 0 permitted, 22 feet proposed. The property is located on the west side of Fraser Avenue between Wallace Drive and Lasher Road at 21300 Fraser Avenue, Sidwell parcel 2434103040, zoned R2 single family residential. I move to approve the waiver for a 6-foot-high vinyl privacy fence 22 feet beyond the side of the house with the following conditions. The appellant obtains the required permit to install the proposed fence. This is based on the following. The strict application of the regulations would result in practical difficulties to the owner of such a property. The proposed fence with the proposed conditions is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area and would not have an adverse or detrimental effect upon adjacent or surrounding properties. And the proposed fence will not interfere with or be objectionable from the standpoint of traffic safety.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Your waiver is granted.
Thank you.
Get in touch with the city for your permits. Would the city call the next case, please?
Yes, sir. Zoning Board of Appeals, case number 22-26, the City of Southfield Zoning Board, apologize. The appellant, Greg Schaffner, owner, is requesting the following waiver from the board: a waiver of lot coverage for a new 192 square foot shed, 25% allowed, 30.1 proposed. The property is located on the north side of Hilton Drive between Red River Drive and Rackham Street at 19500 Hilton Drive, Sidwell parcel 2423382-011, zoned RA, single family residential. This appeal is to section 5.193, article 22, chapter 45, Southfield City Code, more commonly known as the zoning ordinance.
Would the appellant step to the podium? State. Okay. Will the appellant step to the podium, state your name and address, and explain what you're asking for?
Yes, my name is Greg Schaffner. I live at 19500 Hilton Drive, Southfield, 48075.
And what are you asking for today? Nope. And you're asking for a waiver to build a shed, is that correct?
No, I had a shed there, which was the other angle. I sent some aerial maps from Oakland County, like this, and it shows the fence, the shed sticking out into that ditch area, which my line actually goes up to the neighbor's chimney almost, because my dad lived there and we knew the neighbors and they built the house from next door over to here, the parents. And so a lot of animals were getting underneath it, and it was a good 30 years old or more. And so I thought, you know, I need to really get rid of that thing, so let's put it more in my yard. Now the line going there, down there, that fence line, is where I would set the fence up to, because there's big trees on the other side in the ditch, and then my property goes 6 feet over into the neighbor's yard. And then the back fence, I sent over some new ones, which I was told that the a 2 feet variance from her yard needed to be 6 feet. So I dropped that down and I sent them, but I left the little thing, a new cement would be there, which it really doesn't have to be there, because I can put pavers there or something in back of the fence. I've lived here my whole life. I do construction, a business. Had with my dad, then I had my business. It, you know, it's used for a lot of my construction stuff, water blasters, or this and that, and then for some of my yard equipment and stuff like that. So we were just trying to make the thing the more nicer, so the animals wouldn't get under in that. So, you know, so.
Would the city read the finding of facts, please?
Yes, sir. The appellant, Greg Schaffner, owner, is requesting the following waiver from the board: a waiver of lot coverage for a new 192 square foot shed, 25% allowed, 30.1% proposed. The property is located on the north side of Hilton Drive between Red River Drive and Rackham Street at 19500 Hilton Drive, Sidwell parcel 2423382-011, zoned RA, single family residential. This appeal is to section 5.193, article 22, chapter 45, Southfield City Code, more commonly known as the zoning ordinance. The properties to the northeast and west are zoned RA, single-family residential, and are developed with single-family dwellings. To the south is Zone P, parking, and is developed with a single-family dwelling in the Sherwood Village sub. Field inspections of the surrounding area reveal mostly one-story dwellings. The exteriors are made of brick and various sidings. Dwellings in the area have two-car attached garages. The subject dwelling was built in 1938. It is a 3,564 square foot, 1 3/4 story, single-family dwelling with an attached garage on a partial basement, and is a legal non-conforming dwelling. The majority of the neighboring properties have similar legal non-conforming setbacks. The lot coverage of surrounding properties range from 16% to 25%, with most ranging in the high teens. The appellant is seeking a waiver of lot coverage for a new 192 square foot shed, 25% allowed, 30.1% proposed.
Thank you. The city will get into the recommendation in a moment, but just with regard to the findings of fact, do you have anything to add to those findings of fact, or anything that you need to correct?
No, my only thing I would want to add is that the shed was there, and I was just asking for the permission to install one more into the yard properly and be properly done, and, not like I'm asking to add something new, so,
Okay. Would the city read the recommendation, please?
Staff recommendation is to approve a waiver for a 5.1% increase in lot coverage with the following conditions: that the appellant locates the shed outside of the 6-foot utility easement on the north side of the property, which is the rear yard; that the appellant locates the shed a minimum of 3 feet from the west property line, which is the side yard; that the appellant provides a certified boundary survey and the property lines identified by the stakes installed by the surveyor; that no door on the shed shall exceed 6 foot in width. This recommendation is based on the following. The new shed is to replace a legal non-conforming shed which is old and dilapidated. The strict application of the regulation would result in practical difficulties to or undue hardship upon the owner of such property. Such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the ordinance. The proposed shed is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area and would not have an adverse or detrimental effect upon adjacent or surrounding properties. That the proposed shed is consistent with the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance and the regulation which applies to this zoning district.
Thank you. I'd like to now open public comment on this case. If there's anybody here that would like to comment about this case, please step forward. Step forward to the podium and state your name and address and let us know what you want to comment.
Sorry, I'm a little bit short. Good evening. My name is Pauline Nalkranian. I live at 19491 Jeanette Street, Southfield. My property is adjacent to Mr. Schaffner's property on the other side of the fence, on the other side of Hilton. So the only thing I'd like to say is the shed has always been there. It's a good idea. I mean, he got rid of all the rats. There was a rat problem. We didn't know where the rats were coming from. So, and we finally figured out that it was from his property, from his shed. And all he did was get rid of the shed, and he just replacing it. So in my sense, the shed is, it will not interfere with the view from my house. There's nothing. It's always been there. It's not a bother to me. And I don't know, I think that's all I need to say. Like, I would be the one that actually sees that shed, and I have seen it, so it's never been there. I've lived there since 1976. I grew up in that house. And then I got married, I moved out, and then when my mom became ill, I came back to this house. So I know the properties, I know the neighbors. I grew up with his sister. We went to school together. So if I don't have any objections, I don't think anybody should. Thank you.
Seeing nobody else here, I'm going to close public comment.
Yeah.
and turn it over to the board. Mr. Havis?
I don't have any issues with it. Like you said, he's not adding something new, just replacing the old non-conforming shed. So I agree with the city and the recommendation.
Mr. Rogers?
I just had a quick question for Wayne. As far as where the shed's to be, where it can be located on a piece of property, 6 feet, if there's a 6 feet utility easement, obviously you don't want to put a shed on top of it because they could remove it if they have to do service work and things like that.
Correct.
And then the 3 feet from the side yard, that's the minimum of any?
That's the minimum requirement in the ordinance, is 3 feet from a property line.
Is that for grading purposes, things like that? or
Fire safety.
Fire safety?
Anything in the building code, anything within 5 feet of a property line has to be fire rated. But because this shed is under 200 square feet, the building code doesn't apply. So he can be as close as 3 feet without having to have a fire rated side of that structure facing a neighboring property. So he can be as close as 3 feet on the one side, but he can't place anything in the easement on the other side. So he's gonna have to move the shed a little bit. The shed isn't currently in the easement, and it's a legal non-conforming. It was built before the ordinance, and I don't know how it got in the easement, but it's there. And a new shed, we can't allow it to be there. So we've asked him to move it out of the easement and 3 feet from the property line. The drawing that's up on the board now doesn't reflect that. So I've asked him for a survey to show exactly where the property lines are and have them staked, so when we get out there, we know exactly where the property lines are to make sure he's not in the easement and he's 3 feet from the property line.
One last question. Does a shed count for lot coverage under all conditions, whether it has a slab and a rat wall underneath it, or if it's just laid on top of the grass?
Yes, it does, anything with a roof over it is considered for lot coverage. So if you have a gazebo, a cabana, any of those things with a roof over it, is part of the lot coverage. A deck, on the other hand, is not.
So as it stands now, the deck, the shed that he removed still put the lot over the lot coverage minimum?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any problem with replacing your shed. I think it's a good idea, as long as you're put it where on the guidelines of the easement and the side
Right,
yard.
right.
And you get a boundary survey. It's a good
Right.
idea.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I just have a couple questions. One, are you fine with those requirements that the city has of obviously can't put in the easement and 3 feet from the property line? Or are you, you're fine with those, I assume, right?
Oh, no, I want to do exactly what,
Right. The
you know,
couple,
is there. And that's why the fence running long ways is not the property line. It's 6 feet over. And then her property line would be the one looking straight up. But if I can go 3 feet, 6 feet, I really don't care. As long as I'm in code, I'm fine because the electrical wires he mentioned. So that would be just fine, so.
the other question I have, I guess, is for the city. Just a math question, I guess. How much is the shed as a percentage of the lot shed? You just have it written here as how much the variance is for, but is his house already over the 25?
It is.
It is. So how much is the fence as a percentage?
How much is
The fence as a percentage of lot coverage? The shed,
The
sorry.
shed, I didn't do that math.
Okay,
I just did the total.
okay,
And that's normally the way we do it, is I take all the structures on the property.
right.
If there's a detached garage, a house, a cabana, a shed, we total all those up, and that's how we come up with the number.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to whether he's really asking for a waiver of all the lot coverage, or just, he's already existing non-conforming.
Well, he's
X,
an
and then-
existing legal
then
non-conforming.
waiver-
We have permits for the additions on the house, for a garage. I did all that research and found that there are permits for all of that. Again, those were non-conforming because he doesn't meet the side yard setbacks for that garage.
Yeah.
How that happened, I don't know, but the permits were there and they were final. So it's a legal non-conforming use.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's legal non-conforming, and then a certain percentage of waiver for here.
Yeah.
We're sort of, if, the way you've written it here, we're sort of, after the fact, granting him a waiver for all that non-conforming.
Well, there was never any waivers that
I
I could
understand.
find for the setback requirements or the lot coverage.
Well, he's gonna get
Because
one
he's
now.
over in the lot coverage with the house and the garage and the additions that he's put on over the years. And then there's the easement issue, which it's, the garage is literally right up to the edge of the easement.
There's an easement on that side too?
Yeah, that whole side of the property line. The property line runs down the middle of the easement, and there's power lines above it. Over the top of that, his shed is directly under, the current shed is directly underneath the power
All right.
lines.
Okay.
Currently was.
And so I don't have any issues with it, or Mr. Schaefer, are you fine with doing the survey that the city is asking to be a condition of the waiver?
If I have to do, and I have one from 1989.
That won't be
But that's-
sufficient.
okay.
It has to be a current one, and it has
Okay.
to be certified by a surveyor or an engineer.
Okay, I called the
And then we also
builder, I
require-
called the
we're gonna
builder
require
today,
them to
so,
stake it.
okay, staked off and, yep.
I'll give you a
everything done.
copy of my findings of fact that'll list everything, all the conditions on it.
Good, okay, excellent.
So, Mr. Rogers, would you make a motion?
Yes. In regards to ZBA case 22-26, the appellant, Greg Schaffner, owner, is requesting the following from the board. A waiver of lot coverage for a new 192-square-foot shed, 25% allowed, 30.1% proposed. The property is located on the north side of Hilton Drive between Red River Drive and Rackham Street at 19500 Hilton Drive. Sidwell parcel number 2423382011. I make a motion to approve this waiver for a 5.1% increase in lot coverage with the following conditions: that the appellant locates the shed outside the 6-foot utility easement on the north side of the property, the rear; that the appellant locates the shed a minimum of 3 feet from the west property line, the side; that the appellant provides a certified boundary survey and the property lines identified by stakes installed by the surveyor, and that no door on the shed shall exceed 6 feet in width. I make this motion based upon the following. The new shed is to replace a legal non-conforming shed which is old and dilapidated. The strict application of the regulation would result in practical difficulties to or undue hardship upon the owner of such property. Such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the ordinance. Also, the proposed shed is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area and would not have an adverse or detrimental effect upon adjacent or surrounding properties, and that the proposed shed is consistent with the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance and the regulations which apply to the zoning district.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there any changes to the minutes? Your waiver is granted, I'm sorry.
I what?
Your waiver is granted? Just
Thank you.
talk to the city
Thank you so
about
much.
the permits?
Is that it then?
That's it. You're gonna submit to me on, when you get your survey.
Thank you.
All right.
Do we have any changes to the minutes?
I didn't have any.
No, I don't.
I don't have any either.
I've been pretty good lately.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
When is our next meeting? November 1st. One case?
Lot coverage. Yep.
Okay.
The, my understanding, planning is discussing with city council currently about increasing lot coverage to 30%.
Really?
So we would, because we hear several of these that are within, 2-3%, 27, 28, 29% on a pretty regular basis. Most other communities are 30%, some are even at 35. So they're talking about changing that ordinance.
Does that affect the city's recommendation? Just curious, if that does, would that affect the city's recommendation when it comes to properties that are, let's say even above 30, but, you know, they're 35 or something like that, would it, city be more likely to recommend somebody asking for 35 if the,
Probably not.
probably not? Still
I
be-
mean, I would, that would be a case-by-case thing,
Yeah.
depending on what they're asking for. But again, once we increase it, it would not be, we wouldn't be as lenient as we are now.
Wouldn't change our view about a 31, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just curious. Is there any miscellaneous?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I do anything here? No?
Give it a clap.